Well, hello everyone. It's so good to see so many people coming into the program tonight. Well, my name's Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the hub of the universe, also known as the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston area. And we're so glad that you can be with us tonight. Boy, I'll tell you, we got a lot to talk about. I know I say that every Saturday night, but we got a lot to talk about. And the annual meeting, that's on a lot of people's minds. We'll get into that as well. But I just want to give you a little update for those listening in last week. My wife Susan and I, we were on the road. We were out in Illinois and Chicago area, and we came back last Sunday night. And I have to tell you, we did really good. All the way, it's 1,000-mile trip. Not like Joe and Fran. I mean, they travel all over the place, but we went 1,000 miles out, 1,000 miles back. And I have to tell you, we had a good trip. And on the way home, I could not believe it, folks. I couldn't believe it. It was safe. We drove out, no car problems, no near accidents or anything. But coming home last Sunday night, 10:30 here in Massachusetts, right outside of Lowell, an urban city up here in Massachusetts on Route 495. We're traveling along 65 miles an hour and 5 minutes from our house. And all of a sudden, a bull moose jumped out in front of us. We couldn't believe it. We really couldn't. Susan, she's still shaking over that. But he was a big boy. Let me tell you, he had to be at least 1,000 pounds. He had the big anchor. And I'm wondering, what is a bull moose doing on the highway in Lowell, Massachusetts? It's a city, folks. But they're coming down, according to what I read online. It's mating season. So he was down looking for a mate, I guess, but looking in Lowell wouldn't be the place, I don't think. But how he ever got on the highway, I was out there today, and it was big barricades. He must have jumped right over them. But we swerved to the left, and we missed him by 3 feet. If I swerved to the right, we would have hit him. Susan and I might not have been here tonight. If we did, I'm serious. He would have totaled the car, and it could have killed us as well. So thank God. Thank God we're here tonight and doing the 6 greens. And it was something else to really, I want to tell you that tonight. Yeah, I really had to, because it really, our hearts have been beating ever since. And boy, we got home. We were so glad to pull into the driveway. Hey, there's no place like home. Let's get real here. There really isn't. But I don't think I'll ever encounter another moose on the highway as long as I live, especially here in well, I'm not in southern Massachusetts. I'm in northern Massachusetts. But the moose, they usually don't come down this far. I mean, things are happening. You've been reading online on YouTube, and things are changing. Weather's changing. Climate's changing. Animals are going crazy out in Yellowstone Park. And I think they're even going crazy here in New England. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're with me here tonight. It's really amazing that we can talk to everyone like we do on Anne Marie's program. We just heard a man, Matthew, coming in all the way from South Africa. And we have people coming from Sweden. We have them coming from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, you name it. They're on here with us, friends. And what a privilege to talk to people in other countries. And we want to thank all the people that call in. We really do. It really is enlightening. It's very, very encouraging as well to have all these people that have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower come on and be with us. So we want to thank you. Personally, I thank you all for calling into our program. And anyone listening in there tonight, and you can muster up the courage, you can see the telephone number right there on YouTube and Facebook. So feel free to call in. And what we'll do is we'll spin. We'll give you the news, and you can spin it. Yes, this is a spin zone. Would love to hear what you have to say. So, anyways, let's get into it tonight. Let me get into my news here and talk about some of the things that took place this week in the Jehovah's Witness world. Of course, Stephen Lett, you heard that. Jehovah's Witness governing body member Stephen Lett. His wife, her name was Susan. Well, she died, sad to say. And, we don't like to hear anyone die. But she had Alzheimer's, friends. She had Alzheimer's, and it's been announced. But, Watchtower doesn't make a big hoop to do about anything. I hate to always be putting them under the microscope here. But, they could have made more mention of it. The last I checked, there wasn't much on JW broadcasting about it on their website. But she was a faithful woman, and Stephen Lett, boy, she must have had a hard time married to him, though. She must have. I mean, really, that man really can really drive people a little crazy. And but anyways, I wanted to mention that Stephen Lett's wife died, and we don't, as I said, we don't like hearing anyone dying, but it did come across the news today. Well, here it is, fall. Here it is, fall. I mean, we are into fall. It's beautiful up here in New England. The leaves are turning and they're beautiful, and they're going to get really in season here very shortly. They're starting to turn now, but I get thinking today. I've been driving by, seeing all these farm stands selling pumpkins, and at one time, I think it could still be the case. Jehovah's Witnesses, if there was any vegetable, I think pumpkins are a vegetable. Are they? I believe so. Maybe they're a fruit. I don't know, but I think they're a vegetable. But pumpkins, pumpkins always got a bad rap in the world of Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, they pick on everything, right? Even a pumpkin. And, I think it has to do with Halloween. Witnesses, they don't really speak much of Halloween. In fact, I don't either. I don't get into it really. But, Halloween is associated with the pumpkin. But then I also thought of Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving also is associated with the pumpkin. So it's always had kind of a negative feeling. The pumpkin, that is, the witnesses had a negative feeling toward the pumpkin. But maybe it was just because of the jack-o'-lantern. And I had a story. The reason why I even brought this up, it reminded me when I saw all these pumpkin farm stands and all these New England farmers selling pumpkins. But years ago, when I lived in Florida, it was around Halloween time, and I was a very loyal witness, and I had 5 Bible studies at the time. And I have to tell you that I was quite the guy as far as studying the Bible. And I was trying to bring people into the truth. I look back now and I wish I never did that. But anyways, when I went to my Bible study, it was on a Wednesday night, and the man lived way out in the country in Florida, and he lived in a mobile home. And I would go there every Wednesday night and study the Bible with him. And he had jack-o'-lanterns. It was around Halloween, like I say, and he had jack-o'-lanterns on his porch. So he had candles in them, and they were lit when I went there. So we were studying the truth book, and I can remember the jack-o'-lanterns burning in the background, and I had to bring it up, even though, we just knew, but I had to let them know that, celebrating Halloween and having jack-o'-lanterns could bring on demons, could bring on bad spirits into your home. And, he kind of, I mentioned to it, and he seemed to go along with it, but he said that, he's going to just keep his pumpkins for now, and in time he might have a different feeling on it. Well, I went after the study, I went home, and I came back a week later. And when I came back a week later, lo and behold, the trailer that he was in burnt down, and he was in the truck, and we had our study inside his truck. One of the jack-o'-lanterns started the house on fire, the mobile home, and burnt it to the ground. So that story, I always think of that when I see pumpkins, and I think of jack-o'-lanterns. But the witnesses, they'll never do a jack-o'-lantern, I'll tell you that. Now, the witnesses will buy pumpkins, and not all of them have this ill feeling toward pumpkins, but many do, really, many do, because their association with Halloween and with Thanksgiving. Well, I thought I'd bring that up, being fall and everything, just a little sideline there. And then also, what's that?
Happy Rocktober.
Yeah, October. That's it. I'm with you, Pixie. So how about down?
That's the oldest pie we have in New England. That's your oldest pie, that pumpkin pie, and it's so good. And the jack-o'-lantern is actually the Celtic ancestry story. So think of that.
Well, I will think of that. Now, how about down there in Virginia? Are the leaves turning down there now, Pixie?
Oh, it's wonderful. I want to get an orange pumpkin and a white pumpkin, and I found out the white pumpkin will make a good pie too.
Yeah, I heard that before. Yeah, in fact, pumpkin pie is really good. My wife has made some here, and it's really, really good. And you get so much pumpkin out of one pumpkin. But have you seen the prices of pumpkins? I can't believe
Oh,
it.
I know it. I know it.
Gee, I'll tell you, just a little pumpkin could run you 15, $20, for a little
Yeah,
pumpkin. And but you see them all over the place. And don't you love the fall, Pixie? Don't you love the fall?
I do. It's beautiful here. It is really beautiful.
Yeah, in fact, I was thinking of you today. I was out working a little bit, and I stopped in Burger King, got some lunch, and I saw a car from Virginia. So I said, "Well,
Oh,
that's where Pixie lives." We see a lot of cars up here from out of state. They start coming north because of the foliage.
yes. The East Coast, the fall here is beautiful for all of us here in the original 13 colonies.
Well, I'll tell you what's a nice part of the country, and even though we get the cold in the winter, I put up with it. It does get cold up. It gets cold in Virginia too, but it's I like the seasons. I really do, and it's a good feeling. The fall always makes me feel good, even though today was warm. We get up to 80 degrees today, Pixie. I'm sure it was that warm. It
Wow.
was that warm down in Virginia. I'm sure too. Yeah.
Well, it's getting cool here now. We're really in the fall now at this point.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for checking in on our pumpkin story. Thank
Yes,
you.
and I'm getting thrilled for the new Ken Burns American Revolution PBS. He's going to tell the story of the region that we both live in, and Boston and where I live both share those little houses. We both have those little colonial row houses.
Oh yeah, that's right. But I'll tell you one thing. I do really like your governor down there. He's dynamic. He's a good governor. You like him?
Virginia has always worked. It's where all the documents were written by Madison and Jefferson, and the government has always worked here. I don't know if it works anywhere else, but we're clicking along like we always do.
Well, Pixie, Virginia is for lovers. That's for sure. And you're in a
That's
beautiful
true.
state. Yeah, you're in a beautiful
Well,
state. Well, thank
the
you.
county I live in, the real story of that is deeper. There was a wonderful couple. She was a beautiful black woman, and he was an average white guy. And they got married in 1966. And their last name was Loving. And
Loving.
it was a very important case of the Lovings, and they were allowed to marry, and they are still a very cohesive family. And he was a regular guy, and they still have a heating and air conditioning business in this county.
Oh my goodness, it goes way back. Well, thank you, Pixie, for sharing those stories about Virginia. Thank you very much. So,
Okay.
so we got some more news here to discuss here tonight. Got a lot of news coming up here tonight. So stay with us. Stay on JW World News. Of course, that's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But how about where are all the elders going? In fact, they're gone. I'm getting reports coming into the 6 screens here that they're missing elders. Now, some information was shared with me this week in a congregation. I can't say where, but the congregation merged. They had a Kingdom Hall that wasn't doing too good, didn't have good attendance. So they closed that Kingdom Hall down. Of course, they're going to sell it off. And so they merged it in with another Kingdom Hall. Now there were 6 elders from what I got the information. I believe it's correct, the information that they gave me. But from what I understand, there were 6 elders in each hall. Now, when they merged, there's only 2 elders, one for each hall. So it was really baffling to the person that gave me the information, and they're wondering what happened to the elders. Then I did a little digging, a little research, and I'm finding this has been happening a lot. A lot of elders and ministerial servants are missing in action, and no one's talking about it. And why would they? Other elders aren't talking about it. They're just kind of like, well, don't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. What do you think's happening? What I think's happening is they're waking up. They are sick and tired of the Watchtower and their false prophecies. They're sick and tired of the changes. They're sick and tired of the controlling elements in the Watchtower. And the elders have had it. They're leaving. Now, in this particular congregation, according to the person that gave me this information, this person's wife, the elder's wife, she's still going to the meeting, and she's not talking either. So what it is, what the congregation wouldn't be proud to have these elders leaving, and if they told the real truth that they don't want to be elders, they don't even want to be Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, then that could hurt the whole climate of the Kingdom Hall, right? Everyone in the hall would say, "My goodness, what's going on? What do the elders know that I don't know?" So you can't tell the congregation that they became apostate. Boy, what a predicament the witness world is in, right? What's the elders that are still in good standings? What do they say? Well, Brother Jones, he didn't go along with 607. Brother Zealous, he didn't go along with the shunning that the Watchtower does, and Brother Johnson, he didn't really go along with this new idea of the dress code. So I'm sure there's a lot of dissension right now. But on the other hand, the witnesses, they're not thriving. I'm not going to use the word thrive, but they're still in business. I really thought by now, by 2025, the Jehovah's Witness Watchtower organization would be gone. But they're still with us. They're hanging on, though, by a thread. And I know there's so many stories I could tell you about elders missing in action. And I'm not going to go into all of it. But this isn't the only report that I got. There's a number of congregations that are saying the same thing. And not only that, but also ministerial servants. Now, I'm going to tell you what's going on with ministerial servants. They are having a big problem with pornography. Yep, pornography. You heard it right. Many ministerial servants have been involved and deeply, I don't mean just occasional, but I mean deeply addicted to pornography. And I'm sure some elders too. So many ministerial servants have been put on furlough. They've been kind of cut loose from the ranks until they can get their act together. So there's no pool of ministerial servants to fill the role of the elder. So, we've got a lot of moving parts here in the Watchtower organization right now. They are undergoing, I'll tell you what, they've got to be in crisis mode at the Watchtower. They've got to be. And even getting into the annual meeting. Did anyone see that? It was online. Now, let me just give a little thought here. Now, the annual meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses, it was today, October 4th, 2025. Now, it's always the first Saturday in October. Well, that's what today was, the first Saturday in October. Now, let me just give you a little, excuse me, let me give you a rundown here of my understanding of how this. Now, I never went to an annual meeting. My wife Susan here, she told me about it. I've had others that went and told me about it as well. I have never been to one. But let's first of all classify the annual meeting. Let's give you a little understanding of it. Well, what is an annual meeting? Well, let's just go with this. In the world of business, you have to have a meeting, and you have to have stockholders come together at some point. In many cases, it's once a year, as in the case with the Watchtower. So the stockholders of the Watchtower, I know there's someone listening to this tonight saying, well, Rick, I don't know if they have stockholders. Well, according to the information I have here, there are stockholders in the Watchtower. No, the only thing is they are what you would call a private company. Yes, a private company. They're not public. They're not on the New York Stock Exchange. But private companies can also issue stock. And they don't have to tell the world who these people are. Now, if you were public, that would be different. But they're not. They're private. So there are stockholders in the Watchtower. Now, can I name one? Well, there are some names that have come up. Let's first of all start within the Russell family. Now, Russell, we know he was, a major contributor to the Watchtower. In fact, the founder of the Watchtower. And from what I understand, at least one or maybe more than one members of his family still hold some of the original stock. But and there's others as well that do have stock in the Watchtower. Now, let me just bring you up to speed. So, what happens when you go to the annual meeting? Of course, it's open to the public, and it's also the public can come in, listen to talks, and listen to various changes that may take place, or what their guidance for the future would be. Now, there is also in the morning earlier, before everyone gets together and listens in a public manner, there are the stockholders. They go to a special meeting. They go and they meet, and they have the officials of the Watchtower. I'll let them know what the Watchtower's finances are, where the Watchtower is heading. It gives the guidance for the year, how many numbers they've got. They give them all the stats, all the data they need. And so they have privy to that. Now, a lot of people going to the annual meeting have no idea that that even took place, but it does. That's a private little meeting among the stockholders. Then, of course, they go into the public event, which is, typically it includes doctrinal updates, adjustments to teaching and terminology, and changes in understanding, like when the overlapping generation was explained. They first brought that up, from what I can gather, at one of these annual meetings. And also at the annual meeting, you get new releases, you get announcements of new publications, you get new videos, you get new digital tools, and the organizational news. Yeah, the organization will let you know about the election of governing body members, and they'll give you updates on branch operations, and they'll give you a spiritual talk, so to speak. And what they're trying to do at the annual meeting is reinforce the Jehovah's Witness loyalty, reinforce their obedience, reinforce their understanding of theocratic order, who's in charge, who are the ones that are the controlling people of the Watchtower. Now, if you can remember in past years, let's just take a look at 2023. There was emphasis at that governing body meeting, annual meeting, on new Bible study aids, emphasizing digital printing. So they were trying to get people more so into printing off literature, digitally printing it, little brochures, even the magazine, and trying to get people to really learn about that. And then 2022, I'm just highlighting a few things that I remember. And in 2022, there were adjustments to terminology around the faithful slave and how it's reinforced by governing body authority. Now, in 2022, we talked about that on JW World News. And not that it's totally that relevant, but at one time, all of the anointed were members of the faithful slave. But in and around 2022, they made adjustments. They wanted to make it perfectly clear that the real anointed, the real faithful slave is the governing body. See, they've been upping the ante. They're trying to get people to really connect to the governing body and really put themselves in a position of total authority. And then even in 2021, Watchtower, jw.org, they started doing these library updates and new video series. So generally, that's what they would talk about during an annual meeting. But this annual meeting today, October 4th, 2025, this year was a nothing burger. It was nothing. Well, they had a few things. I'll tell you what they did do, and we'll discuss that. Then in time here, we'll open up the lines and get your thoughts on it. But let me just check something here, make sure streaming on StreamYard all right. Yeah, I see that people can hear me all right. Make sure the comments are good. Yeah, let's check my archive. Okay. All right, let's go back and talk a little more about the governing body. I found it very fascinating, and we got some really interesting things to share. So what happened? What happened today at the annual meeting? Well, first of all, a book called Walk Courageously with God. And the book, of course, talks about Bible characters and how they showed courage and how Jehovah's Witnesses today can imitate them. Really, I mean, they're always trying to make you imitate people of high stature. Not everybody is like that. Are you going to be like the Apostle Paul? Are you going to be like Abraham? Are you that type of a person? Maybe not, but they want you to imitate these faithful people of old. Also, today they came out with 9 new brochures or little tracts, more of a track, like a little Christian track. They're mini brochures, and they're going to be used in the ministry. That seems to be the position the Watchtower has taken lately, getting away from, 100-page books, 32-page Watchtowers, just reduce everything to a mini brochure, a little track. But one thing I did notice today that is of importance, and to some degree, you could say it's kind of a change. Bethel, of course, that's where the full-time workers would be for Watchtower. Bethel will no longer be seen as a long-term service. Now, we know in the past, many Bethelites, they more or less signed their life away. They went there at an early age and they stayed until the 60s. Well, the Watchtower is doing away with that. There'll be no more long-term service Bethelites. It'll be temporary, and a lot of people will be leaving Bethel or be reassigned. Now, we've been talking about this, right, for the last month on JW World News. So we get a lot of Bethelites that are getting the axe. The Watchtower doesn't say lay them off. They call it reassigned. The Watchtower will send them to a congregation, maybe their congregation they came from, and the congregants or the publishers in their congregation, they'll take care of them. So that's what's taking place. So Bethel. So
yeah. The words of Anne Marie shut. It's no longer long term.
That's it.
This is Zachary.
That's Zachary. Yes.
Yeah. I really.
Yeah. No longer long term. They're cutting them all out. They just want them to. They want them to be. Well, they call them commuter Bethelites, and they just want people to come there and learn what they can and just be short term and get as much information about the Watchtower as they can and go about their business.
I know you often talk about them going down, and they won't be around. I think it's a slow burn.
Well, it's going to upset. I mean, I can see, Zachary, you were a Bethelite, and I can see that it kind of touched a nerve with you.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking through my letters. Their view was that you would make Bethel a lifetime career.
Well, that was the view of the past. It's no longer.
Yeah. I was speaking to a Peony, and I made a point about, they've always said that the end is close, and the Peony said, they don't push that anymore.
Well, we're going to get into that too. Yeah, I got some stuff. All right, thank you. Well, see that?
Sorry to shock you like that.
Well, that's all right. I thought you might have been one of those drunken Bethelites at first.
No. Well, that's another thing. I don't believe those are drunken Bethelites.
Well.
The Bethelites are, let me tell you this, the Bethelites are extremely busy. All the ones that I know who hung out with me, they're doing real well in life, and their spouses are too. In fact, I sat through a movie recently, and I saw a very familiar name in a prominent place. So I think Saturday night Bethelites are not sitting around drinking. I know it sounds funny, and I laugh with you, but I think in reality, I didn't have time to sit around drinking and trolling people on the phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, though, you were in a different department. the Watchtower does use these people. I mean, we're not going to get debated tonight, but we'll get into it some other night.
But you said these are drunken Bethel Lights.
Well, they drink like crazy. I mean, you must have saw it. No, you just answer this.
Let me tell you what I did when I did Bethel, Rick. I was sitting around. I would spend a lot of time in the music room, and I was meeting people coming and going, and we were singing together, kingdom songs and other stuff, and I'm playing the piano. I was at a brother's wedding, and he told me, I don't want you to play the piano at the reception because everybody will be crowded around you, and it'll be about you and not about me. So Bethel Lights are doing stuff. I don't think they're sitting around drinking and trolling.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to say.
Well, I mean, you do know, and then we'll get to the other stories, but on Monday morning, I mean, if you opened up any trash barrel at Bethel, I mean, there was a lot of liquor bottles and beer cans in there, right? Of course, you probably.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
You didn't.
Once a month, I might get a bottle.
Well, I got pictures of it. When Johnny the Bethelite was there, he took pictures and sent them to me.
Pictures.
Yeah.
I saw the can. The can only had about 10 beer cans, 10 or 15, and that was supposed to be full. It had about 10 or 15 containers of beer.
All right.
And that's what you're going to have if you have 10 people or 20 people. 10 or 15 is not much.
Well, no, there's no. You'll always get that, but it's okay. No, but I always love we.
Throw up your pace.
All right, no, we love you. Well, no, thank you. All right, let's go. So, what else happened? The annual meeting today. You can see that struck a nerve with Zachary that Bethel will no longer have long-term service. So they're getting rid of a bunch of people. We've been telling you that anyway. So it's really not news, but it's now official. Now, how about they also showed a video of how the Ramapo project is progressing. I guess they're going to go along with it. It's not going to be finished until 2030. So, I mean, that kind of cooks the idea that Armageddon's right around the corner, right? So they talked about the Ramapo project, which I still have questions about, but we'll let it go with that. It seems like they're going to go forth with it. And they also talked about today, now they had that Jesus movie, that movie they have and that the witnesses produced, the Jesus movie. They're going to come out with a series of other movies, the Acts of the Apostles. And these will be released in the up and coming New Year's, a few years, I should say. And they're going to be all about the apostles. And they're going to be very much like that Jesus movie. And there's also new understanding about Armageddon. But I mean, I don't know if it's a new understanding or not, but you be the judge. I'll tell you what was announced today at the governing body meeting, but you be the judge and you let me know if you think it's new, because I don't know. Apparently, this is what they said today. Apparently, during Armageddon, Jehovah will protect his people in every way possible, spiritually, physically, and emotionally. So we don't need to fear being injured during that war. But I'm thinking, I never feared being injured during the Battle of Armageddon. Did you? I mean, why? That's why I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I figured I'd be protected, but they're making it known and profoundly known. They made a mention of it, and it just wasn't like a blip on a radar screen. They let the witnesses know that Jehovah will protect his people in every way possible, spiritually, physically.
They had some of that in the old days, but a lot of the born-in kids, they got confused about the fireballs, and they didn't realize the fireballs were for the neighbors and not for them.
Yeah, well, when you were a witness, did you believe you were going to be protected, Pixie, through Armageddon?
I believed I was going to walk right through into another dimension, like in the door in The Wizard of Oz, or in that witness picture where they're all lined up in their dresses walking through the mud and with the city behind them. I really believed I was going to walk into a new world.
Well,
but I believed it without thinking that I would be totally protected. They had us afraid that there would be all these tribulations, remember? And they had us with pictures of fireballs on the cover of the Watchtower. And they didn't tell us whether the people getting hit with the Watchtower fireballs were witnesses or worldly people. So I'm glad they clarified that today. We can all sleep better knowing that the fireball is not going to be on our heads.
Well, I'll tell you, Pixie, when I was a little kid, my mother, she was a loyal witness, and she really wanted me to be a loyal witness. My father wasn't, but she really wanted to train me to be a loyal witness. So she used to say to me, Ricky, you have to really obey Jehovah. And if you don't, you could get hit with a hailstone if you don't. So, we were taught that. We all were. We knew that. But see, I felt like becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses, that might have been one of the reasons why I did. But I could make it through Armageddon. But they're emphasizing that today, that, Jehovah's, don't fear now, because Jehovah's going to protect you through Armageddon. So I don't know if that's new light or not, but they seem to make it sound that way. All right.
It might help the mental health of their members to have less anxiety too.
Yeah. Well,
if they're not going to have the lifetime at Bethel anymore, if it's going to be 2 to 4 years visiting there and learning things, that sounds a lot like college.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Pixie, it's always good to hear from you, and you always add a lot of color to it. Thank you very much. And I want to also add here that I think, you've seen Alfred Hitchcock movies, right? There's always a twist to the end. In other words, what you're thinking is not what happens. So then, Alfred Hitchcock, he was a master of that. So I think the Watchtower here, a lot of people were expecting, including myself, that this was going to be something. I thought they were going to announce a lot of new changes. I thought there was going to be a lot of new things that were going to be discussed. But like I said earlier, it was a nothing burger. Nothing really of any monumental. Nothing was really offered that offered any real concrete thoughts. Everything was pretty much mushy. But anyways, just to make things short here, I have to say that the governing body, I feel they might have preempted the expectations of what people were expecting. I think we were all expecting that, because I've heard it. Some of them were thinking that, boy, at this annual meeting, maybe they're going to allow for birthdays. Maybe they're going to allow for, maybe they're going to change the stake to the cross. What I got to do here is, Pixie, just mute yourself if you would. You got a lot of stuff.
Rick, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I like Pixie's idea that it's almost like Bethel becoming like college. I think it's okay to send people home if that's what they knew from the beginning. It's those people who were promised, come here, we're at the end of the system, come here and stay here indefinitely was the term they would use. So those are the people who I feel bad for, who are getting cut loose when they expected to be there for an indefinite period of time, for life,
Well, there'd be a big disappointment for them. I mean, there are some people, that's all they have. That's all they have. They don't have a family. That's their family. And now all of a sudden they get news today that everything's going to be temporary, and those that are there will be sent home. I mean, that's going to be a shock, Zachary. It's going to be a shock. Yeah. So I feel that the today's I'm just thinking, friends, and I could be wrong, but I'm thinking the governing body, they're not going to announce these new changes like we've seen with beards, and women can wear slacks, and the idea you can now toast, and the idea that you can now just check box ministry. I think they're not going to do that at annual meetings anymore. I was really thinking today they might have discussed the birthday. They might have discussed the cross, changing it to a cross from a torture stake. I thought they might have discussed blood transfusions, maybe eliminating the idea that, that's not biblical. But there was nothing about any of that, nothing at all about that. So I'm thinking, I think they got something up their sleeve. I really do. I think that they're kind of just toying. They're saying, okay, we know that a lot of the witnesses were expecting something. and not just the ex-witnesses, but also loyal, faithful Jehovah's Witnesses were expecting something. They've been getting for the last 2 years all these changes. So they're saying, wow, this annual meeting in 2025, it's going to be big, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. So anyway, but I did find something here of interest, and I found this kind of like quirky, or you could say kind of crazy. There was 15 trivia questions that were asked at the annual meeting today. So I'm saying, why are they asking trivia questions? I mean, they copying the 6 screens. That's what we do, right? At the end of most of our programs. But I'm saying, now, why did they do this? But what they did is they would use trivia questions to introduce the next part. So the brother would give a trivia question and then introduce the next part. And they would try to tie it in with the business at hand. So now these trivia questions, it wasn't really about various Bible writers. It wasn't about Jesus. It wasn't about women in the Bible. What it was about was all about the members of the governing body. It was all about themselves. Now, this is bizarre at the most. So they actually gave themselves a starring role in their own story. I'm going to say it's a disgrace what they're doing. They are truly, that is, the governing body is truly elevating themselves above any Jehovah's Witnesses since the beginning of
Now, this is Tom here from Texas.
Yeah.
I think what they're doing is that they are trying to become God Himself. I think it's the ultimate goal with that, is they are going to become God Himself. That's what I think.
Well, it's kind of moving in that direction, Donald. I mean, that they have really elevated themselves, and they put themselves in a position. But let me suggest what was said for these trivia questions. It was 15 of them, and so let me just say I counted 15. I think that's all there were, but I got 15 questions that were asked, in between parts. So one of the questions, the first one I caught was, who is presently serving as president of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? Who is the president of this? So I don't know why they brought this up, but they did. So the answer is Robert Suranko, and he's been the president since 2014. It's almost as though they're wanting to let the witnesses know of certain events here, or certain things that maybe they're not aware of. Then another trivia question that was asked, who was the first president of the Watchtower Society? And we know who that was. It wasn't Charles Taze Russell. So they're actually suggesting here, they brought it up in the governing body meeting, William Henry Conley. He was the first president. He was a banker. He was, now they didn't get into that. They just gave his name. But he was a banker who actually gave Russell the money, loaned Russell the money to start basically the Watchtower. So Conley was the first president of the Watchtower. Can you imagine that? So they brought that up today. I don't know. They seem to be going nutty lately. I'll give you some more. Question number 3, they asked, who among the serving members is the longest serving member of the governing body? You know what that is? That's Garrett Loesch. Well, Garrett was a friend of mine at one time. He was the guy that invited me down to Brooklyn. All right. Now, for another question, these are questions that were asked at the annual meeting of the governing body today. And they would ask these questions before they introduced different speakers. So, who is the oldest serving member of the governing body? Do you know who that is? That's Samuel Hurd. He's actually over 90. I think he's 93. I'm not sure, but I think he's 93. Another question, who worked together with Jody Jadell on night security in the 90s when they were both single? Well, Jody Jadell is a governing body member. As a matter of fact, he was also a big-time banker. He's also involved in that financial assistance company. helping rich people invest their money. So who actually was single and they both were in night security in the 90s? Jeffrey Winder and Jody Jadell. So these are the questions. I mean, was it necessary? I don't get it. And which member?
Crazy.
Yeah. You want to say something?
I said it's kind of crazy. And 2 Corinthians, I think it's 5:1-7, goes into don't be worshiping yourself.
Yeah. Well, this is what they're doing, Pixie. This is, I mean, these are questions. I mean, I won't, with a few more here. I mean, I won't go on to them. There's 15 that I counted. Well, here's, but anyways, okay, here's one here. This is number 13. Which governing body member is the only governing body member to graduate from the ministerial training school? Well, I guess it was Mark Sanderson, and his instructor was Stephen Lett. So, then they also, one question is, what is Ramapo? They asked that question. What is Ramapo? It's the World Headquarters Media Center. So they got talking a little bit about that. So, in fact, even some of the, some people were thinking, I mean, facetiously, are these the new baptismal questions? Are you going to be asked these questions before you're baptized? I mean, this is creature worship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is.
No, I don't think Jesus questions like that to ask people.
No, I don't know where they go with these questions, but it looks like it's.
But Rick, the governing body is a lot like gravity. You know why? Because what goes up must come down. So they're putting themselves up. They can only go up so far, but trust me, God's going to bring them down.
Well, I'm with you with that one. I mean, they're going way up there, and I'm sure that God or the powers to be are not going to allow this to happen. I mean, this is pure creature worship. It's a blatant. It's a blatant worship of men. I mean, how can the witness world even stomach it? Yeah.
It's Antichrist. Actually, the Watchtower or the governing body they're not the Antichrist, but they are an Antichrist. They are the forerunners of the Antichrist because they're teaching people how to follow them. Just people would be following the Antichrist when he really comes. Because that's what Watchtower is doing. They're teaching people to be loyal to them, totally loyal, 120% loyal to them, and nobody else.
Well, that's what they're trying to.
Loyalty to God is loyalty to them.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you, Donald. I really do. But, I got thinking, I mean, I have some trivia questions of my own here that I would like to ask. I didn't hear them at the annual meeting, but I'm just going to say, why didn't they ask question number 16? Which member of the governing body buys $800 worth of whiskey early on a Sunday morning? That's one question. That's, of course, Tony Morris. I have another question that wasn't raised today. Which number 17, I'll go with that. Which governing body members have slept with multiple women? I mean, that's another question. So they didn't ask any question like that.
Wait, what's the answer?
Well, which governing body member?
Better yet,
Well,
number 18.
well,
Which governing body molested a child?
yeah.
What's the answer to that one? Which one slept with multiple women?
I'm not going to really give it because it's just a fake question, so I can't say, and because I'm not sure.
For entertainment purposes only.
For entertainment, I'm just speculating. I would.
I thought it was new news you were going to give us.
No, but I mean, they didn't ask those trivia questions. They stay away. They stay away from them. Jeez. So, but this all.
Let me say this about that one. Who's the longest serving governing body member, Brother Loesch?
Yes.
Remember, he is the first brand new one. All the other ones who died, up to Brother Henschel and Brother Sidlick, all of them. Brother Loesch was the first brand new one that they put on the governing body. He definitely is governing body 2.0. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, well, no, I knew Garrett, and I like Garrett. I still like him. He's getting older now, but
And the point I'm making is, I'm just thinking all those doctrines that we had about this generation will by no means pass away until all these things occur, and we can see it's long past when the end should have come. So much so that they have to put in new governing body members, and now I say they're starting on 3.0. Okay, that's all. So.
Well, no, they well, what? In fact, I'm glad you bring that up, Zachary, because I believe you're right here. We are seeing some monumental changes taking place, and I feel that, I was really looking to this annual meeting, as many of you guys out there were, for some big changes, and we didn't see them, but I really feel that there's definitely going to be some major changes coming this year, and they're going to be on the governing body updates that they do. That's how they're going to do it in the future, because it's faster. Go ahead.
You know what I think is going on too? It's not necessarily about, okay, when they talked about beards, the teenies that I know, and I kind of bring it up, and they'll say, yeah, well, Jehovah doesn't, we're not to judge anybody on this, or we're not to judge on that, as if they're doing deep research and coming up with these new positions. But I don't think they're doing deep research, coming up with new positions. I think that what's happening is you have new bodies in there, new people in there, people who didn't grow up under the old regime. So they come in and they've got new ideas that might not fit with the old ideas. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of the changes that we're seeing.
Well, that's exactly right. That's causing a lot of divisions too. It's creating some real issues. But I believe that these governing body updates, as we get them every month, I think that's where you're going to get a lot of the real meat, a lot of the big changes. They didn't do it. They knew that a lot of witnesses were participating in hearing something, or at least feeling they would hear something today, and they didn't. But I believe they're going to do the changes now, all the changes, doctrinal, also the policy changes are going to be done through the updates on jw.org. And the reason for that, because it's instant. It's instant. It doesn't have to fester or get around the grapevine, so to speak. It's instant. The witnesses hear it right away. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. So I believe that we'll be seeing a lot of doctrinal and prophetic interpretations that will be presented in these governing body updates. They were definitely building up to something today. I could kind of feel it. When you're listening to talks and you're examining information that's being said, so sometimes you can definitely feel something was to be said, but they didn't want to reveal it. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a psychic of any type, but we all know what I'm talking about, right? I felt something was missing. I really felt that they would have revealed something, but they're going to leave it for a later date. I think just some of the things that were said got me thinking that. Some of the
it's almost like a puzzle. When you have all the pieces filled in, that one piece is missing. You kind of know what it looks like, even though you haven't seen it.
Yeah, they're giving you little clues. They're giving you little clues. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, I'm thinking in terms. I was even thinking before this meeting today that we're going to see some really big changes. But there is one thing I can mention here that I really talked about a couple of weeks ago, but I want to emphasize it again tonight. And it has to do with the November 25th study edition of the Watchtower, specifically on paragraph 7. Now, I want to bring this up so the audience can really get an understanding here of what the Watchtower is saying. This is November 25th, 2025, I should say, Watchtower. So it's on paragraph 7. Perhaps you were saddened, I'm reading it verbatim, perhaps you are saddened by the possibility that the end of this system will not come in your lifetime. If you feel that way, what can help? Try to remember that Jehovah is patiently awaiting to bring an end to this wicked world. But his patience is not without purpose. His patience is allowing millions of people the time and the opportunity to come to know him and serve him. And so that's what it says. So they're saying that perhaps you're saddened by the possibility that Armageddon's not coming in your lifetime. Well, I'm glad I'm out of the truth. I'm 78 years old, and I'm glad I'm out of that organization, because I would be terribly disappointed after. Well, I would have been in there for 70 years, 70 years in that organization, with the prospect of Armageddon right around the corner. And now they're telling me in this November 2025 edition of the Watchtower that, are you saddened? I mean, they're saying it in such a soft way. I mean, really saddened. I'm mad. I'd be mad. I'd be furious. I put all my life's efforts, my work, my resource, all of my energy, you could say, into preaching door to door and bringing people in the so-called truth. And now they're telling me don't be saddened. Well, anybody would be saddened. So this is really something that I wanted to focus on, because it's going to be very, very hard for a lot of the baby boomers, people in my age group, to give up this old thinking. And it's going to be very hard for the Watchtower to redirect the old timers' thinking. How are they going to put them on a new path? I mean, how are you going to do that? I mean, people are disappointed. So Armageddon is being pushed back, and they're not even speaking about it much. They just had a little bleep there. They're not even the Great Tribulation. Forget about it. That's almost disappeared. You never hear of the Great Tribulation. And what about the overlapping generation? Well, that's just about expired, right? You never hear of that anymore either. And then another thing I got thinking in the last week or so with Trump, when he was at the United Nations. Did you see that on TV? He was pretty upset with the United Nations, and he was really saying they're useless. Now that could really be used by the Watchtower too. They could kind of go along with Trump on this, and get back to beating the United Nations up again as well, and kind of have some credibility behind it. But anyways, what I wanted to say on that idea of Armageddon, a lot of people have been saddened. A lot of people are upset that it's not coming in their lifetime. But lo and behold, all of a sudden I come across the December 2025 Watchtower. This gives a little more understanding. So this is what it says. Listen to this. I'll read it right from the Watchtower. It's no longer applicable to just old people anymore and connected to the end. In other words, what they're saying there is, old people like myself, we've always connected, that we're in the end times, right? I mean, why wouldn't we? We've been told that for years, at conventions, assemblies, at the meeting, through the Watchtowers. We've been told it's the end. But then it's kind of even beaten up on us old guys. It's beaten up on us. The Watchtower is saying, you have probably noted that proud people do not like to keep waiting. So if you're a loyal witness and you're waiting for Armageddon, then you're a proud person. And God doesn't like proud people. And it says that pride will make them impatient. Boy, I'll tell you, the Watchtower, I'll tell you what, are they trying to destroy the old people? So they're saying that if you are impatient and you've been waiting for Armageddon, and you've been waiting for 50, 60, 70 years, and it's not here yet, well, don't be impatient. Well, what else would you be? I mean, some people might go on the blow the Watchtower up mission, believe me, because their whole life has been impaired. their whole life has been put on hold. So what a contrast it is. This is what the Watchtower says. So what a contrast that is to Jehovah, who is the epitome of patience. What do you think of that? What do you think?
But you know what, Rick? So another thing too, if you want to think about this, now that if they're saying now that Armageddon's not coming, how all those people from before, from the 60s and 70s and before that, even the 80s and 90s, those people were all told, oh, you don't need to go to college, you don't need to do this because Armageddon's just around the corner. They've destroyed all these people's lives for nothing.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Rick. Yeah. I did go back and look at that November one, and it looked like they were talking in that one to older people. It was all about older people in that article. And so you think about it. If a person were 40 back in 1975, I hope my arithmetic is not off, but if they were 40 in 1975, and now it's 50 years later, in 75, we were supposed to be going into the God's day of rest, his great Sabbath, the millennial reign of Christ. Armageddon would come and we'd go there. We find ourselves there surviving. And if a person were 40 back then, well, now they're 90 years old. So of course they might die before the end comes. If it took 50 years so far, thinking from a 40-year-old person's point of view, if someone was like that. So and to say that Jehovah has this patience, well, the doctrine has often been that 1,000 years are to Jehovah as a day. He's on a different time schedule. So why not just stop trying to make it sound like it's something that's just around the corner? Why not just admit that it hasn't been talked about the right way? Why not just admit they were wrong all these years?
Well, why do you think they didn't, Zach?
Why did they not admit that they were wrong?
Yeah.
Or why did they push the end? I think they pushed it. One reason you would push the end is it kind of would keep people in line. And you just, I don't know. I think they're slaves to a system where you just keep making excuses for why something didn't happen when you said it would happen. And they still haven't been able to come out and say it. It seems like they're saying it in a roundabout way. They're not denying, they're not saying there will be no Armageddon, but they are pushing it off now. They are starting to kick the can down the curb. And then to tell people that they're proud because they had to wait, well, we were always encouraged. A strong person is always keeping Jehovah's Day close in mind, thinking of it as being right around the corner. That's been the way they used to teach us to think. And but like I said, Apimi told me they're not pushing the end anymore. It's being so close.
Well, I'll tell you, no, they've got to get away from it. They got in trouble in 1975. They got in trouble in 1925. So they got to get away from dates, and they got to get away from even talking about Armageddon. And that's really, I think that's the glue. We had a program on here one night going back probably 2 years ago, and we were asking people why their parents and why their friends that they know are so loyal and Watchtower, why they won't leave. And one of the main reasons was the fact that they're afraid they're going to die at Armageddon. So this has been something, Zachary, that, even myself, basically, that's why I remain one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I really believe in Armageddon, and I really didn't want to die in Armageddon. But that's that's the glue that really keeps many witnesses in. So if they just eradicate Armageddon and not even talk about it, sometimes I think, Zachary, and you've been around, you're a smart guy, and we get a lot of people who are smart listening to this, but we have a man named Dan Clark, and he comes on here a lot, and he did a TikTok video, And he got me thinking. I got talking with him, and he believes that the Watchtower is on a controlled demolition mission, that they're really trying to get rid of people. Now, I know this is like an Alfred Hitchcock ending, right? But now stop and think about even what they said today at the annual meeting, how, they're not going to have full-time, they're going to have full-time, but not long-term Bethelites.
Yeah.
So in view of that, it costs a lot of money to house these people and to put them up and feed them, even though they get free labor. It's still a lot of money to do that. So, they're going to cut expenses. It could be like, let's really aggravate the witnesses or get them so discombobulated that they don't go to the meetings anymore. Then we can sell their kingdom halls off. So there's some merit into what Dan was saying. What do you think, Zach?
Well, earlier I used the term, it's a slow burn. So I do think that they have to control the ending. I don't know how extreme it would be, but maybe they do have to little by little make it smaller and smaller, and at some point, it will just end. But it may be a slow burn, controlled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I
think it's going to be rebranded. I think it's going to be rebranded into a high-tech social club with religious icing.
Well, that's an idea, Pixie, too. Yeah, that's a possibility. No, because none of us really have the real answers. But something I gleaned from the talks and stuff today from the meeting is that it was kind of suggested that they're not going to have older governing body members anymore. They didn't come right out and say 80 was going to be it, but it was suggested around 80 would be it. And they're bringing you notice some of the newer governing body members. They're all a lot younger. So I'm really thinking that Pixie's rebranding, the slow burn, design demolition, whatever terms you want to use. They are really, and we're only hypothesizing at this moment. I mean, don't take it to the bank and cash it, but something's up their sleeve. I can tell you that. Yeah.
I'm always careful with what I say about them. For me to say this much about them, that I see a slow burn, is because of some extreme things that have happened in the last couple of years that we've seen.
Yeah, these last couple of years have been quite the ride. Who want to come in? 602. Come on 602. You want to come on 602? If you want to, you run with us. Okay, maybe not. All right. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, I just got thinking because look at, I enjoyed being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't mind it. It was a lot of work. It was like having another job. I learned a lot. They told me how to find scriptures in the Bible. I'm not beating them up entirely here, but what I am looking at here is an organization that has really gone awry. It's an organization that has allowed for so many bad, unchristian practices, and they're claiming to be the only Christians on the planet. This indicts them. This makes them, in my mind, very suspect. And I feel that they can't keep covering up the child abuse problems. They cannot continue to shun people. It's hurting people. People are committing suicide from it. They can't keep up with their blood doctrine. They can't. People are dying. As a matter of fact, there was something I found on the internet this week that a person done some research, and they feel that over 30,000 Jehovah's Witnesses have died from refusing blood. That's a lot of people dead. And, the Watchtower is guilty on that. And they can't continue to do this type of stuff and get away with it. And we have coming on next, 9 o'clock, we have Justice for All program. Stephanie Lynn Carson. She's rounding up all the sex predators in the Watchtower. That's what she's trying to do. There's tons of them, and the Watchtower keeps covering it up. And then now never mind the criminal cover-ups. Let's go with what Zachary was just talking about. How about the idea of covering up the fact that, well, don't be saddened because Armageddon's not coming. And if you're impatient, then, Jehovah doesn't like that. That's a pretty cruel trick to pull on someone. But this is the history of the Watchtower. And even today, I got a call from Fran and Joe. Of course, they stay on top of a lot of stuff. They got their own program on YouTube. They do a great job. And they were telling me, they called me today, and up in Ramapo, where they're building that video center, where they're going to have supposedly making all these videos in the witness world. And they own a lot of land up there. And evidently the Watchtower owns some land that is a housing development on. And the Watchtower, I don't know the whole story precisely, but according to what Fran and Joe told me, there's a woman living on their property somehow, some way, and she's being evicted. Yeah, you there, Fran? Fran, why don't you tell the story, Fran?
Yeah, well, thank you. I was waiting. I didn't want to interrupt. Yes, so a couple weeks ago, Wally from JW Thoughts he did a video about the Ramapo, and it specifically had some of the residents that were living in a building, residents, yeah. And so these residents were being kicked out.
Go ahead, Fran. Someone had their YouTube on. Yep. Are you there, Fran? Are you there, Fran? Fran? I don't know what happened, Fran. Fran, well, she'll be back on with us and tell the story, I'm sure. We can hear you now. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, there was the Watchtower bought this complex, and people were living there already. And they told them that they could continue living there, that, they weren't going to be bothering them. Well, they just got a letter a little while ago saying that they had to find another place by April. They would be kicked out, basically. So Wally, gave this whole story. And in the video, he had people's names that had written in that were residents there. And this one woman gave her name, and I looked it up because I knew where the complex was, and I sent her one of our postcards, our warning about Jehovah's Witnesses. So I sent that out on September 25th. Today we get a phone call, and she says, "Hello, my name is," and she said, "I received your postcard. I just wondered how you got my name." And I explained about Wally's video. So anyway, I told her we used to be Jehovah's Witnesses. We are no longer, and we left when we found out about the pedophilia cover-up. She started to, oh my goodness, she was so upset. She wasn't upset with us. She was upset with the witnesses. She said, they claim to be the most loving people on the earth, and they are far from that. She may be listening right now because I sent her the link for your program. Her name is Patricia. If you're listening, Patricia, I hope I get everything right that you conveyed to me. But anyway, they took over the property. The witnesses took over the property, and she was just so upset. She talked to two gentlemen. Apparently, they were witnesses. One had the last name of Mordecai, and he said, "I'm sorry that you're going through this. I'll see what I can do." So he did get back to her, and he said, "I told whoever you told about your predicament, and you should be hearing from him soon." But she was just, she could not say enough bad things about the witnesses. She's been watching XJW videos, and What else did she say? But anyway, she wanted to come on, our program, and we told her we have our program Wednesday night. And I told her about your program, Rick. I told her all about you, that you've been doing this for 20 years. But she said they're on the property. The witnesses are on the property, and they're like robots. They're just like little busy bees here and there. And she didn't have anything good to say about the whole project.
Said that the public meeting is open.
Oh yes, Rick. I mentioned how you tried to go to Ramapo and they wouldn't let you speak. I mentioned that to her, and she said it's a public meeting. Anyone has the right to come in there. And she said, if you want to go there or get in contact with them, you just let her know. She's very influential there. She's a realtor. She sold her home so that she could move into this complex. She has a 92-year-old invalid mother. And she says, I can't just get up and go and find another place. She's married. So this is just a big disruption for her. So now she's waiting to see if Watchtower is going to come up with some solution. So anyway, she's going to keep us posted.
Well, thank you, Fran, for bringing that to our attention. I'm glad you were on. And it's something that the Watchtower should be ashamed of themselves. Now, obviously, if you purchase land and you have the right to do with what you want with it, but I'm sure that the Watchtower did not work in a diplomatic way. Really, they're harsh. They really are. They're getting a bad name. And I mean, I don't know exactly how it all transpired, but I could just imagine how they are. And I'll tell you, when I went up to Warwick back in 2017, they had a protest up there, and I went up, and we actually went out in the neighborhood, like in field service, warning the people about Jehovah's Witnesses. And a lot of people in that Ramapo, Tuxedo, Warwick area, they did not even know the Watchtower's world headquarters was there. They didn't. And I remember knocking on people's doors and telling them that, the Watchtower is a dangerous cult. And they had no idea even who the Watchtower was. But now all of a sudden, with them moving into Ramapo, and like you were telling me earlier, they have traffic jams and everything up there now, Fran.
Oh, yeah.
People are knowing the Watchtower. They don't have a good. They're losing.
Yeah,
They have a
sure.
tarnished image. They have a very tarnished image. Yeah. Well,
The other thing I wrote, we wrote some postcards to the town of Ramapo. We sent one to the supervisor and one to the justice court. It was a woman, and one to the police chief. So one by one, I didn't want to send them and get a whole bunch of postcards all at once. So I'm kind of spacing them out. But she was the one that replied to us, and I was just so happy to hear from her. And I hope she's listening. Her name is Patricia, and maybe she can come on the program sometime.
Well, yeah, that'd be good. In fact, she'd give us a little update on what's happening, and I really would like to know how they treated her. That would be a little litmus test right there. I'd like to know if they were very, understanding and trying to accommodate her needs or helping her in any way. Because I really
They're not doing any such thing. They were just very, apparently, because it's a religious organization and they are tax exempted, they can break the rules. And the rule was that they were not going to kick anybody out. The other company that had this property, and she lived there for 7 years. She's been living there for 7 years, so it's not like, she's new to it. So it had something to do with Watchtower being a religious organization, tax-free, and they can come in and do whatever they want. So it was very upsetting.
Well, that you just touched a nerve there with me, because I remember, when I got out of the Watchtower, and my former wife and I, we got out for theological reasons. We knew that they were false and not teaching the truth. So my wife and I decided we'd have a little church in our house where we could have former Jehovah's Witnesses come and we could all talk and have a good time together about Scripture. And then I found out that if you're a religious organization, because I was wondering about what the zoning would be to have a little church in your house. But at the time, from what I can remember, you could have a church anywhere. It actually trumps everything. You know, to get a business license to set up an auto shop or an auto body shop, whatever you're going to do, you have to go through all kinds of red tape. But as far as a church, they can do whatever they want. So it probably falls under that law, you know?
Yeah. So we'll keep you posted, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you, friend. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
602, you want to say something? 602, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Rick, you got to put yourself in the shoes of Jared Loesch and what's his name, Samuel Hurd, and they're envious of Anthony Morris, you know, because Anthony Morris is not responsible for anything anymore. So I thought it was going to happen today, but it'll happen here pretty soon for two reasons. All of the corporations in America have a clause where, you know, their CEO has to retire at a certain age. And it makes sense, right? Because you also need to have new blood, young blood at the top to keep the machine going, right? Keep the dinosaur growing. But you also have the old CEOs, you know, their board of directors, and, you know, they help out the new kids on the block. But Samuel Hurd and, you know, and all of those guys, Jared Loesch, they know where all the dead bodies are. And think about it. If you were them, wouldn't you rather just go to Paraguay or Uruguay or, you know, they have this city down in Mexico. It's called Puerto Vallarta. But right next to Puerto Vallarta, it's New Puerto Vallarta. And it's only Americans and Canadians and Europeans that live there. They all speak English. And it's like a city within a city. And it's, you know, protected. So all over the world, there's these cities in almost every country where white folk who have caused a lot of damage in America can run for shelter. And so, and the good thing about that, when the governing body does that, I think it's going to happen any moment now, is they can also get rid of all of the old elders, because you got to understand, all of the old elders in your congregation, they're a drag. They're a big drag. And so you need to have 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds come in, because you can't have a new religion when grandpa is at the head of the helm of the religion, of your congregation. So I think by setting a precedent of using the Bible to find where the what do they call the priest would retire, and, you know, it's the godly, it's only loving thing to do is to let the old man, you know, stay home with his wife and grandchildren. They'll use some kind of thing like that. But I think if by them doing that, they can also implement that on a lower level. And the last point I was going to make is, and I know I say this jokingly and in jest, and you may think I'm crazy, but Jesse and I have a theory. You see, nobody has lied. There's no religion that has lied more than the Jehovah's Witness. And there's a lot of them. But they lied about everything. They lied about proms, birthdays, haircuts, whatever. They lied about everything. And then they say that God's going to bring the end very soon in our lifetime. So now that they've changed their tune, I have now become a believer that Jesus is going to come in our lifetime, and he is not going to let the Jehovah's Witnesses carry on with that preaching work. So just because of Watchtower's track record on lies and the fact that they flip-flop, I now am a believer. And I know that sounds stupid and silly, but man, Rick, the fact that Watchtower says Jesus is not coming in our lifetime, if I was in Las Vegas, I'd put my money down that he is, because everything that Watchtower says is 180 degrees opposite of the truth. I know that's crazy, but I wanted to run it by you. So I went ahead and I sold everything, and I'm going to live, in a bunker somewhere, wait out for these. No, just kidding.
Well, you don't know. In fact, Gilbert, I appreciate you saying that because it's almost like everything the Watchtower says, just do the opposite and you'll be all right. Really, it's almost to that point. Yeah.
Yeah, so Jesus is coming, and I'm buying whiskey and cigars, and just a lawn chair and waiting for him to come. The exact opposite of what Jehovah's Witnesses teach. Yeah, but yeah, Rick, the Watchtower, I think this year is going to announce that they're going to give the old timers a way out, and then that's going to roll downhill. All of your old elders on your local level will also be forced out, and they will be advisors, but they're not going to be running the show.
Well, I'll tell you what too. They had the annual meeting today, Gilbert. We talked a little bit about that at the outset of the show, but I find that since the governing body has been coming on with these updates, and people can see them up front and close. I mean, it's not resonating with younger people. You're seeing all these old fogies, right? And it's not really resonating with the younger people. So there's a movement taking place right now where you're not going to see older governing body members, and you're going to see a lot of younger ones, and they'll be more able to come up with enthusiasm and be able to show more vigor for the truth than some of the old guys do. So you're right with that. We're going to see a lot of changes, and even with the it's kind of mentioned today at the annual meeting that 80 is going to kind of be it for governing body members. And a lot of the new ones they're bringing now, we talked a little earlier, are going to be younger ones. And because you have to connect with this younger generation. My generation, the baby boomer generation, they were promised all this stuff and they were aggravated. A lot of them are aggravated with what the Watchtower said. But the younger ones, you got to get them to stay. You got to present a better image. So we're going to see some big changes. But thank you, Gilbert. Always good to hear from you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're on JW World News. That's the news the Watchtower doesn't want us talking about. But we talk about it every Saturday night, and we've been doing it for 20 years, and we're going to continue to do it. But anyways, we're waiting for Stephanie Lynn Carson. I'm not sure she's going to come on. Her program is tonight, but maybe she got it mixed up with last week. We'll see, but we'll see what happens with Stephanie Lynn, see if she's going to come on. In fact, let me check my email right now. Did someone want to say something? Do we have another caller want to come in? Go ahead if you want to. All right. All right, let me check my email here. I want to see if Stephanie got a hold of me. And we'll see if what's happening here. Just give me a second. Yes. Yes, I can. This is Joe.
This is Seth from Missouri.
Oh, yes. Good to talk to you, Seth.
Hey, we just got in, and I just kind of was tuning in and listening in a little bit there. I just want to add a little bit to what was being said previously about with every truth that may be taught by Watchtower, it's mixed in with a lie. That's kind of how I view it. Even if there are truths within, if there's a truth mixed in, it's always mixed with a lie. And so that's kind of what I was thinking, and I thought I'd add my 2 cents in there. And it takes a lot of study, but you're right. If you do the opposite of what Tower says at the time, you're probably going to be safe.
Excellent. My goodness gracious. Well, that's a good way of thinking. So did you get any information from that annual meeting today that you kind of thought was of interest?
I didn't get to watch a whole lot of it, but boy, when I first turned it on, I watched the live stream there, and the clapping. I stopped clapping at the members to start it off, rhythmic clapping to get people's attention. I said, boy, was I really in that? Did I really? And I would have made excuses for him at the time, but wow, I mean, he clapped them like they were kids. It was like getting because I work for the school system, and I know that's what you do with little kids. You rhythmically clap at them, and they'll clap back or look your way or whatever. And that's kind of how I believe it was Jackson. He started it off that way, and of course, anytime I see him, all I think of is the ARC. And but I just found that very interesting how he was clapping at. And then I guess they started off with get the old guy out of the way, you know, Loach, get his talk on and get it over with before everyone said. And how they admitted a little bit that they're so boring when the music presentation came on for their new Jesus drama or whatever it is. They said, you know, hey, if you're over 30, be sure don't close your eyes and you may fall asleep and we'll have to wake you up at the ending prayer. I was like, boy, are they admitting that they're that boring?
Boy, oh boy, huh? That's something, Seth, huh? Jeez. So how you doing out there in Missouri? Things going pretty good? You doing any protests lately?
Well, there's an assembly coming up in November. We just moved houses, and it's been a rough few weeks, rough emotionally, rough physically, and so we've been up and down and all around, and every emotion in the book. So we thought we'd take a break for a few weeks anyway and get back at it come November.
Excellent. Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing you out there again, because I'll tell you what, protesting is a wonderful way to get the word out. Very, very good, Seth.
It works. All right. You have a good night, Rick.
Well, thank you, Seth. Thank you for checking in with us tonight. Oh, always good to hear from you. Thank you. And say hello to Felicia. Yeah. Bye-bye. All right. Well, anyways, you're on JW World News. We got Justice for All. That's going to be coming up here very, very shortly. So why don't we go to the trivia game? Let me just check something out here. Let me just check the other studio out here. Okay. So why don't we go to the trivia game right now? Let's do that. What we do is we play a game here, Watchtower Trivia. Now, I know the governing body members today, they were playing Watchtower Trivia at the annual meeting. Maybe they're catching on to what we're doing here. So let's just give the rules of the game. What you do here, you're on the honor system. So you can win some books. You can win some money. But you're on the honor system. Now, we're going to give a question and you answer the question. But before you answer the question, I want you to shout a number out, because we have a lot of people listening in right now. So shout a number out, 1 to 100, and then I can hear that number and I'll pick you as the first one. First one that calls out a number, they get to answer the question. If you answer the question right, you get a point. You get 5 points, you get a book. You get 12 points, you get $100, and I'll send it to you. But now, as far as the book, we have Jim Hill, a good friend out in Seattle, Washington, known as Nathan Natus. He has a number of books here. They had reprinted, many of them Watchtower publications, like the Millions Now Living book. He had also a number of other books that we have here. I don't have time to show them to you right now. Captors of a Concept is another one by Don Cameron, talking about the Watchtower. So we have books to give you. 5 points, you get a book. 12 points, you get $100. So let's see if we can't play the game here. Let's go to the first question. But what I'll do is I'll ask you the question, and when I say go, answer it. But don't answer until I say go. All right, let's go with this. What year did the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses decide to forbid blood transfusions as a doctrine? What year? Go. What year did the governing body decide to forbid blood transfusions? What year did that take place in? Anyone have an idea? Wow. Want to take a guess? I'll go with one. Zach, what do you think?
Sometime in the 1900s.
Yeah.
1942.
No. You're close, Pixie.
1943.
No.
1945.
No.
1951.
No.
One.
Go ahead, Zach.
1941.
No, it's 1945. 1945. Yeah. Boy, all around it. Yeah. Now, here's one. Jack, you should know this one. For how long was a ban imposed punishable by disfellowshipping on vaccinations by Jehovah's Witnesses? Now, friends, bear in mind, you could be disfellowshipped for having a vaccination. So we want to know, how long was a ban imposed, punishable by disfellowshipping, for having a vaccination? Who wants to take a shot at that? That might be a tough question, but go. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll give you the answer. I'll give you the answer and see if someone can tell me when the ban came off. The ban started in 1931. In 1931, because of the Golden Age, what a wacko magazine that was. But the Golden Age had all kinds of articles talking about vaccinations and how bad they were and what have you. But in 1931, the Watchtower came out, the organization, and said you could be disfellowshipped. Basically, disfellowshipping, though, didn't really start until 1945. But prior to 1945, 1931, you could be looked down upon. But in 45, you'd be disfellowshipped. So what year did they do away with that? Who wants to take a shot?
One.
Go ahead, Zach.
1957.
Nope. It was 1952. Good shot, though. Those are kind of tough. This might be a little easier here. Has the Watchtower ever claimed that baptism is of pagan origins? Yes or no? Go.
1, 4, 8.
Let's go with 4.
Yes.
Yes, but they practice it anyways. The practice of baptism predates the Christian faith. It was employed in Babylon and ancient Egypt, where the cold waters of the Nile were thought to increase strength and bestow immortality. That's right from the Watchtower, 1993. So, yep, the Watchtower claimed, yep,
Just a point here to make.
yeah.
So they jump over it as a Christian ceremony. They jump back to Egypt. But don't they teach it as something that was done before Christianity, the witnesses? Because they taught that John baptized, John the Baptist, he baptized for repentance.
Yeah, well, so the question...
So they skip right over that. Well, okay.
Yeah, they skip over a lot of stuff, Zach. They really do.
That's the point to note.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. So that's good, Zach. You're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. All right. Let's move on here. Let's do another one. Well, here's an easy one. I'll throw this out because I want to keep it easy for people. What is the abbreviation for circuit overseer?
1, 4.
I know you know. Let's go with 8. Let's give someone else a chance. Go ahead, 8.
You said 1 first.
I know you did, but let's give someone a chance, and I'll give you a point anyways. Go ahead. Go ahead, 8. 8. CO. 8. Who was this number 8? Who was this?
Craig from Bradenton, Florida.
Well, thank you. Thank you for playing our game here tonight. Well, you got a point. Keep a point now, okay? Keep a point. You add the points up. You're on the honor system. All right. All right. All right. All right. Someone tell me, I'm going to give you an abbreviation in the Watchtower language. What is the abbreviation JC? Go.
1.
Go ahead, Zach.
You can't be serious. Not Jesus Christ.
No,
Oh.
it's not. No. Go ahead, too, Donald. That's you, Donald. Go ahead, Donald.
Judicial Committee.
Judicial Committee. Now they're changing that. They're not going to call it the Judicial Committee. I forget what they're going to change it to, but I forget what they are. But they're not going to call it that anymore. Or maybe they are. Maybe they're not going to call it judicial hearing. I forget. But anyways, you got that one right. All right. All right. Here's a real easy one for you. Now, Zach, let someone have a chance. What is the season for most regional conventions? Go. We know you know what it is.
One.
Go
I
ahead.
said it after you said go. The summer.
The summer. Yep, you got it.
The noon.
You got it. Yep.
Okay, Rick, at that point, I just reached 12 for the fourth time, so I do want the jackpot.
Okay.
I have 48 points.
All right. Well, you take it. It's $100, but who do I send it to?
Can you give it to Debbie Moore?
I don't do third party. It gets too confusing.
You did it before.
I did it before, but what happens is it's very, very confusing. I sent money. I'm not going to say to who, but their sister got it because they didn't want to take it. And they didn't want their name revealed. So it's just to, I mean, you give me an address, I'll send it to you, and you can send it to Debbie.
Okay.
So send me an address. Send me an address, and then I'll send you the money, and you send it to Debbie. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's the, let me just say this too. With 48 points, this is the only thing I wanted to say. This is fun. I am now the 6 screens duck trivia game world record holder.
Well, you are. That's a title to be proud of. That's something that I mean, that's right up there with Nobel Prize winners. That's right up there. You know. Good. All right. Well, thank you, Zach. Well, we're going to end it there tonight. We got Stephanie Lynn Carson. She's coming on here next. She has a program, Justice for All, and she's rounding up all of these sexual predators, not only in the Watchtower, but she's going to tell you that there's so much of it going on, and she wants to cast a light on it. So we'll be going to her very shortly. But friends, I want you to keep standing tall. And remember, we do have 6 screens Sunday tomorrow. That's beginning at 1 o'clock right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. So, friends, keep standing tall. Don't you ever give in, up or out. Don't ever let your visions die. And the last one leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Thank you very much for being with us. We really appreciate it. And stay with us. We've got a little Stephanie Lynn. She's coming up next right here on the 6 Screens Telenetwork. All right. Let's send that.